Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour that cup of coffee and turn on your fright light while we take you on a tour of terror. In we are deep in the December to Dismember, slicing open all those wonderful Silent Night, Deadly Night films, and so much fun they are.
Yeah, this has been a rough one, I take it, for you. We've been discussing the latest entry that we're about to cover. Yeah, that's a tough movie. Hopefully, we can bring it home. We got two more to watch as of right now. Um, Very curious to see where they're going to fall on this. I thought maybe, getting away from the, Ricky and Billy storyline would offer something fresh and new. Unfortunately, the fresh and the new is not what I've wanted at all with the last two. So, yeah, they've been very, very odd, very strange, and just overall very tough to watch. So, I'm
Yes,
hoping we can get it. We can bring it all home with that and the remake.
very all over the board. Even though that board is for the most part terrible, just terrible in different ways. I guess they're taking their shots. None of them are really hitting, but very interesting watches nonetheless. I can see why these were such a blind spot in my horror kind of filming or watching, I guess you would say. I did not regret taking this long to actually watch them. I may be actually regretting watching them, but um, we'll see. We still have a couple more. Maybe they'll bring it home. I don't know. My hopes are not too high, but we'll see what that leaves. But that is some old horror news. We just did the trailer drop, the little teaser trailer for Scream. Now that
Hmm.
we've had a few days to sit on it, I know for the most part we were both pretty positive about it. Dylan, you still feeling the same way?
Oh yeah, no, I think it was a great trailer. Still looks good. I think if you guys are just discovering this right now, if you're watching Sunday Scaries and you didn't know that we had a trailer release or at least a reaction to it, we did. We don't really know what happened. It was kind of in a glitch there for a
It was
couple days
weird.
where it was up, it was getting views, but it's kind of weird. Usually our trailer reactions do a little bit better than this one has, and it wouldn't show up on our channel timeline at all for like a whole day. It wasn't until I posted the first Silent Night, Deadly Night that it came up. So it might be a little bit hidden. So if you don't know about it, definitely hit the channel and check it out because we have a lot of nice things to say about it. I thought it was a good trailer.
Yeah, we went for quite a bit, talking about it and everything, but it was very interesting. Only one little scene that they show, but I mean, great tension, great build up. Makes me intrigued to see what is coming out in full for the full length trailer as well as that actual film itself. I know we weren't too hot on the last one that we had seen, but hopefully this one again brings it home and gets us back on board. Hopefully, we'll see
No, I
what that brings. Maybe we get a little Matthew Lillard action. I know you're kind of rooting for that, but we'll see what happens.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are. It's definitely one of the things we're all kind of hoping that we get Stu back in some formal way. It would just be awesome to have him return. Um, you know, I mean, the last one, I think for us, maybe the biggest complaint is that it played it so safe that
Mm-hmm.
it just got really predictable and kind of boring. We'll get into that as we get closer to the film. That's definitely one we're going to cover. But for this one, I am excited because they are obviously changing some things up. They're going out of their way to not only give us a new setting, but maybe even change up kind of the way this is all going to be handled. Because like somebody that I watched brought up a good point about how it's like, now that they're in New York, they might not be the most important players in the game as far as, danger. And that was something I didn't consider to where it's like maybe they'll go to law enforcement and they'll be like, yeah, I got fucking carjackings and muggings and people getting killed every 5 minutes. Like, it's a busy city. Like, I can't help you guys with a crazy guy in a mask right now, kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like a small town like Woodsboro, they can just dedicate all those resources. So,
Yeah, where kind of changing that setting is changing the game entirely. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to bring. I mean, they already showcased it a little bit with the subway scene, really does feel like New York. They're making use of that setting, so I'm intrigued already with that little teaser, and I want to see what else they bring here. Obviously, they're making that New York City setting in the forefront, so it's not just going to be that background noise of a bunch of people walking and trying to get a taxi or anything like that. They're really making use out of it. So I'm curious to see what they're going to bring in terms of that, and I think that new setting there also brings a lot of unique and creative kills. We talked about it briefly where we had Jason Takes Manhattan, which was what, maybe 15 minutes of what was seemingly Manhattan anyway. But, that film never really got going. They never really made use of the setting. I mean, they tried to jam pack it in that little bit, but it never really felt, like a New York kind of film. And I'm hoping that's what we get out of the new Scream film. It seems like they're heading that way. So I'm excited for it. I think everything that we've seen, the stills, this little teaser trailer, everything seems very positive. And um, Scream's a unique property to me because I go into it always thinking more positive for these films rather than something like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre where it's like, oh, they're bringing out another one of these, and I'm always preparing for the worst. Even going into last Scream, I thought I went into the theater thinking I'm gonna love this movie, and it didn't really hit for me. So I'm hoping they bring me back here with the newest film. So I'm still, regardless of how I felt about the last one, I'm still going into this one positive.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like, it's big horror. It's going to be one of the big slasher icons coming back to the screen, so gotta be excited to see it. And
Fingers
before we get
crossed.
into these stories, though, I did want to mention. So we made a decision behind the scenes here. So obviously, if you keep up with our weekly, or not weekly, our bi-weekly podcast, actually the kind of flagship series of the channel, Splattercast, we will not be releasing an episode this Monday. Yes, it is the week of Christmas. We are in the midst of December to dismember. There's going to be a lot of videos as we've been talking. We're going through the Silent Night, Deadly Night films. We already have parts 1 and 2 up as of now, and part 3 is going to go up tomorrow. So that's one of those things where it's like we are pretty much just we're kind of into it already. So we're kind of running it back and forth here. Like, Luke kind of presented the idea of, why don't we skip this Monday and release it the following Monday? And that just makes more sense to us. It's the week after Christmas, so it'll literally be the day after Christmas that it comes out.
Mhm.
So it just kind of makes more sense to maybe put it out that week, so that way it has a chance to kind of stand on its own and not get buried by all the other content we're going to drop that week. So if you are looking for us this Monday, we will have content on the channel. It just won't be Splattercast. That will be next week. So I figure we'll throw that out here. I'll probably mention it a couple more times, leading into this upcoming week, but just makes the most sense for us.
Yeah, the channel's gonna be so jam packed this coming week here with so much different content and everything that the hangover from Christmas and everything. We kind of want to have something released right out of the gate there, and then we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, where we've kind of have a little bit of a schedule change coming up here in the new year as well. So we kind of
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have a long delay in terms of those podcasts. So it just makes the most sense to kind of release it next week. Plus, that podcast may be regarding a fella you might want to bring in the new year with.
Oh,
Have a
absolutely.
couple of drinks.
And one of those things too that you just mentioned it, that we are going to be switching some things up. So keep an eye out. We'll mention this probably for the next couple Sunday Scaries. Once we kind of get closer to the new year, or either right before or right after, we are going to have like a little update video, kind of like I guess like a town hall meeting kind of thing, just saying, hey guys, here's how we did last year. Here's what we liked. This is what we didn't like. And here's our basic game plan. So, a couple things are going to change. And we are going to mention some stuff, so look forward to that. So that's not trying to leave you guys in the dark about anything, but that is everything that I have to announce. Luke, I think we should probably get into these stories.
Let's hop into this format, brother.
Alrighty.
All right, Matthew Lillard is making his return to horror, but he isn't making a stop in Woodsboro, at least not that we know of. Lillard was announced along with Josh Hutcherson to be in Blumhouse's video game turned movie Five Nights at Freddy's, with the troubled production finally making progress and announcing the cast, as well as expected to start filming in February of 2023, it looks like this project may see the light of day finally. Will this be a hit with horror fans, or is this a property that's starting to feel like cold, day-old pizza? And now, looking into this, as this was announced, I didn't realize how long this movie's kind of been in production, and just kind of how many scripts they've went through, how many denials they've went through, and all this stuff. Because this thing has been going on for a while, and it's like, it's been in my brain to say, oh, more Five Nights at Freddy's news, but I didn't realize that this has been an ongoing thing for years upon years.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you kind of be surprised to see that it has been going on. I mean, when this first got like kind of picked up by Blumhouse, it was one of those things where it's like the games were super popular at the time, and like I think it's still a popular property with a lot of the younger kids and things like that. But I don't think it really has the same legs that it had when it first got announced and when it was first like really big. So they do have a bit of an uphill battle. This casting is interesting, though. I mean, Matthew Lillard was kind of the one that took my attention. Obviously, we're big fans of him on the show.
Yes.
But what really just caught me off guard is how you mentioned Josh Hutcherson is going to be in this. That's crazy. That man hardly does anything anymore. Like, he's done some TV stuff and everything, but the fact that he's coming to do this, that's crazy. Or did you say Josh Hutcherson or Josh Hartnett?
Josh Hutcherson.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, what the fuck? Josh Hartnett's going to be in this? Yeah, no. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so that's a little bit more understanding. All right. So
I would love Josh Hartnett in this film.
Dude, I know, right? I was
it.
just like, what the fuck? They got Matthew Lillard and Josh Hartnett in this Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Jesus,
that would be perfect.
Dude.
I'd just love to see those two guys play off each other. But going into actually Matthew Lillard being cast here, for me, that's his. I think for a lot of people, probably a lot of people listening to this, he's kind of, royalty in the horror community. I would say, just kind of getting started with that original Scream film, and Stu being such an iconic character. And like we talked about it, hopefully maybe he makes his return at some point. Who knows? But overall, I mean, just Matthew Lillard as an actor, extremely underrated, brings so much to the table. I mean, I love him in 13 Ghosts. I don't know if a lot of people love that film or not, but anytime he's on screen, he steals the show. So I'm curious to see in terms of this subject matter and what he's going to bring here, because he has a wonderful idea of mixing like light undertones of comedy in with the horror. So I'm curious to see what kind of tone this film's going to be in general. I know we've had like I haven't seen the Banana Splits, but I think that's kind of based off of this. And I know Willy's Wonderland is very much based off of Five Nights at Freddy's. And I know that one didn't really hit for me. It was just kind of, there. I think it's a good concept. I just don't know. I think this is a hard one to kind of undertake and be successful at, I think.
Yeah. I do think they do have a bit of an uphill battle with this one at this moment in time. I could be totally wrong. There could be a lot of diehards just waiting in the wings, waiting for this thing to come out and just ready to strike. I don't know. It's never really been my franchise or my property that like I'm excited for. I like the concept a lot.
Yeah.
I have to at least admit that I like that. We did watch Willy's Wonderland before we even had the channel, before we even rebooted it. I remember we watched that just on our own because we're big Nick Cage guys, and he kind of had a couple of big films around that time. I mean, that was just after The Color Out of Space, which we both really loved. And that predates Pig, which you watched Pig, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Fucking love that movie.
Oh,
that movie
great.
is amazing. Not horror, but highly recommend everybody check that fucking movie out. It's so good. One of the best of last year.
And that's where it's like,
far.
I went into Willy's Wonderland thinking they were going to make use out of Nick Cage, and they really didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think they really didn't make use out of a lot of stuff in that film. So I don't know if that was just conceptually something they didn't really know where to go with that film or what to do. I can't remember if I read in my research that was actually one of the disregarded screenplay ideas for what was going to be Five Nights at Freddy's.
It might have been. I think I remember hearing.
There are just so many out there that's like, got to be bound for it. Or maybe it was Banana Splits. I can't remember, but it was one or the other, I think.
Yeah, and Banana Splits is actually based off of an old not a cartoon, but an old children's TV show.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know if necessarily that one was a discarded script for Five Nights, but it's definitely taking that concept of like a Five Nights at Freddy's and running with it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's again a neat concept. Um, you could do a lot with it. I don't think it has been done to, I think, the fullest extent. Just the idea of being in like a Chuck E. Cheese and these fucking animatronics coming together, like that's fun, that's cool. I mean, I'm curious to see how this goes. They got Matthew Lillard in it, so like you've caught my interest. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to see what they got. And I mean, we're gonna see this just to cover it on the channel because it's gonna be
Yeah.
big. So it's gonna be one of the ones I'm sure is gonna be one that people are going to be expecting reviews for and everything. So I'm in. But I am trepidatious on whether or not I am going to be excited for it. I'll have to see a
Yeah.
trailer first.
And that's where it's like, I think regardless, I would have been just out of blatant curiosity wanting to see this film just to see how they were going to approach it. And then plus, once you announce that Matthew Lillard's going to be in it again, we gush about him all the time. I think he's at least going to be a successful part of the film if they make use out of him. So I think they got the tones down, at least with the casting right here. I'm hoping he gets a big part and he's just not some sort of side character, because I think that can really, he's a guy that can really lead the horror vehicle of whatever you're trying to present. I think he's a guy that can successfully lead that. So I'm glad that they casted him. I hope they make use out of him again with this idea as well. It's one of those unique, fun ideas that you can really play with, but again, it all goes back to how you approach this film. So regardless, just they have my curiosity. With Matthew Lillard, you have my attention. So now I do want to check this out. I'm just hoping it's not one of those. It's already been so hot and cold in Stop and Go that I don't know when this thing's going to actually come out. I think they're slated to start filming in February, but who knows really where this thing's going to go.
Yeah, and I gotta say, if you're looking for any bit of a fresh dose of Matthew Lillard, if you haven't seen him in any films recently, I actually have a TV show my wife and I watched that was on for a few years called The Good Girls.
Great stuff.
Yeah, we watched that all just a couple months ago. Fucking phenomenal. He's great. He's hilarious. The show itself is just so original, so cool. We're devastated that show was canceled. I wish that we had found it before it was canceled to maybe be a part of that pack to maybe help keep it on.
Yeah,
But yeah, if any show needs a revival right now, it's that, because that show was
absolutely.
phenomenal. The cast was phenomenal. And Matthew Lillard was just such a pleasure to see in every episode.
And
Like even the
I
parts where you
randomly
hate him, he's still great.
and I randomly turned that on. I think it was on Netflix, I believe, and
That's where
not
we
knowing
watched
that
it.
he was in it, and just wanted to watch something, and then like Matthew Lillard shows up, I was like, hell yes, I am in. So it's like he is a guy that, if he shows up in anything, I will sit down and I will watch it just to see him act.
100%. So yeah, definitely good recommendation there. Check it out.
All right, let's
All
hop
right.
into our next little bit of news here. Out of the cabin and into a Los Angeles high rise, the Deadites are moving on up and are ready to snatch some souls and do some killing. A new image of the film was released, and along with it, the director Lee Cronin expanded upon what to expect from the new Evil Dead film. Cronin said, "There's a lot of fun callbacks, and there are direct lines to the past. But part of the goal of making this movie was to create something that could expand the Evil Dead universe further. Horror fans have been treated to so much legacy horror over the last few years, some good and some oh so awful. With Evil Dead Rise live up to the legacy of its predecessors?" Now, this is something that this franchise is near and dear to our hearts, as well as most of the horror community here. So, this one has stakes. This one has a lot to live up to. Everything that we've seen so far, I'm intrigued by. I'm glad it's getting that theatrical release. But the stills that we've gotten, they're really intriguing to me. I don't know what part of the story they're trying to tell here, so it's kind of like going into this, I really don't know what to expect out of this film.
Yes, near and dear to our hearts is definitely the way I would put it, because I absolutely adore Evil Dead. I love all of those movies, and I really enjoy, from what I've watched so far of Ash versus Evil Dead. I have never gotten through all of that show.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything against it. It's just when I do sit down and watch it, I've watched a couple of episodes here and there, and I just kind of get caught up with all the new release stuff and everything. I said I was going to watch it when starting it last year, in preparation to get through it before this came out. And then like I said, we just kind of took off with the channel, and
Yeah.
it's tough to keep up with your personal watches when where you're doing stuff for this all the time. But I will get through it. I have enjoyed it immensely. I would have watched it when it came out. I just never had access to Showtime. So now that it's all complete and everything, I did get that box set a couple months ago, and it came with all of it on Blu-ray, and I got all of it on digital. So
Yeah.
I'm able to go through it all. But yeah, this franchise means a lot, and this movie has a lot of stakes to live up to, because I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. I don't think there's a single bad entry to that series, and I really want them to keep that going. I think that's really rare, especially with all these franchises that are near and dear to our hearts. I say it all the time. I'm a massive Friday the 13th fan, but even I can admit there are some duds in there.
Yeah.
Same with Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street. I'd say fewer than those two. I think that's again another real consistent series, but even then, there's the Dream Child and stuff like that. It's there's stuff like that that just doesn't really hit. So I am excited. I am dying to see a trailer. The images do get me excited, and they pique my curiosity. I know I said to you, I'm like, so we've seen a lot of stuff in the apartment building. They've really been pushing the apartment building for months now. And then we get an image of somebody lifting out of a lake. So I'm kind of curious to see where that's going to fall. I like that quote about them kind of pushing forward
Yeah.
with the series. I know that Lee Cronin is a huge fan of the series. And obviously he was handpicked by Sam Raimi to continue this, just like Fede Alvarez was with the remake. So I trust them. I'm excited. I'm really am, but also again, I have said this. I was a fucking fanatic when Halloween 2018 was coming out. I was really foaming at the mouth for it, and it let me down. So I don't want this to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So I guess I have to have a little bit of trepidation, but I will be there day one. I'm planning on seeing this a couple of times. I'm excited.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm very intrigued by this. My hopes here are pretty high. Like you're saying, this is a franchise that it through and through has quality to it. Like you were saying, there are so many duds in a lot of these horror franchises. But Evil Dead has continuously produced over decades now. Where that tone, especially with Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness, is a little bit different than the Fede Alvarez version, where he stripped away a lot of the comical stuff that we usually get with Sam Raimi, and went for a more serious tone. So I'm expecting that is what Lee Cronin's going to do here as well. It's probably going to
Yes.
be a little more in line with what we had seen previously. And I think even though the Fede Alvarez version was a little difference in tone from what we had gotten with the Raimi versions, it still works with
Mhm.
everything. It doesn't feel like um, it's been picked out of the bunch to say this one, one thing's not like the other. It all fits, it all works. And seeing the stills from Evil Dead Rise here, I'm pretty intrigued because, like you said, we have someone rising out of a lake, and then everything else is pretty much in the apartment building. So I feel like, we just talked about Scream. I feel like they're going to make the use of the setting here, where I feel like it's going to feel a little more expansive. It's not going to just be like straight up in the apartment building. Maybe that's the start of all these happenings or something like that. I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. And yeah, to say that, we want to add to the lore and the universe here, I'm very glad to hear that. It's like Scream. I feel like maybe they leaned a little too much on, the original, and we want to make it feel like that. We're not really adding too much to it. Same thing with Halloween 2018, where, I feel like they relied too much on their predecessors. Whereas this one, I feel like it's going to have the tones, like he said, but we really want to create something new and different here. And I think again, with the Fede Alvarez version, they were successful there. And I think, I don't want to speak too soon, but I feel like this is going to be successful.
And see, that's where I am with it too, is I think that Evil Dead kind of understands a little bit more. Like, we have that trilogy. We have, Evil Dead to Army of Darkness, following Ash Williams, kind of being a more of a consistent through line. And now I think the idea of just kind of playing, because it's already a series that is, drenched in the idea of, having a multiverse in a sense, where it's like, Ash fell through time. The book took him there. So it's like, the fact is, everybody, it's kind of been confirmed at this point, years later, by Fede Alvarez, that 2013 is technically a sequel to all those films. It's the same cabin, but it is in a way almost in this odd parallel universe to the first couple films. So it's almost like they could always cross over into that and bring Mia out of it. I know a lot of people want that. I would love to see Mia and Ash team up. I think she's a wonderful addition to this series. And I think they need to keep doing that. Like, just kind of tell a unique story, bring the book into it. You don't have to give us too much of like this connective tissue. I know everybody likes that. Everybody loves their Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. I do too. But it is one of those things where it's like, this series is unique in the sense where it's like, you could throw the book into any situation. And as long as the scares are of quality, it's consistent with the tones and what they've established before, and we know what we're getting with our Deadites, I think you're going to satisfy these fans. And you would satisfy me, especially, because it's just like, if they want to do this, like, they kind of have the best of both worlds. It's very rare that you find a franchise that can have its cake and eat it too. And I think that Evil Dead is just that kind of perfect concoction of that. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with this.
And that's where, like, here, I feel like this is a franchise that's really walked that line perfectly, where they haven't fully committed to anything to say, oh, well, we need to have this, this, and that in order for this to feel like an Evil Dead movie, where it's like, you look at these other franchises where we cut off Michael's head, we drag Jason to hell, we put him in space, where it's like, where do you go from here? It's like, you really paint yourself into a corner, where Evil Dead has done so well at the storytelling, character development, and then pivoting away from Ash Williams and doing something different and making it feel organic and not odd or out of place, that I think we can honestly go almost anywhere with the Evil Dead franchise, and I think it's going to be super interesting to see what comes from the next few years, because I don't think Evil Dead Rise is going to be in the end of this. I would love to see a couple of other properties spawn from the Evil Dead franchise and see what they get from there.
I agree. And I'm super hoping that this movie does well. I hope that it's of quality. I hope we can stay on that path. And then, we can go forward and continue on with this. Because, again, very rare. I feel like we're going to talk about it a lot leading into this, but it's one of those rare franchises, even in cinema, I would say, where it is every single one of those movies, in my book, is an A. And
Yep.
it's just like, I love them all. But
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a perfect record so far. So this one does have a lot to live up to, but at least we're getting Evil Dead in the theater. That's already a win. So
I already love that.
alrighty, let's hop into our next story here. Speaking of wins and losses, spandex, tanned biceps, and long flowing hair are all the things you need in the world of pro wrestling. But now, with the help of Chris Jericho, you can add backwards cults to the list. Jericho is executive producing and starring in a new wrestling themed horror film titled Dark Match, helmed by Wolf Cop director Lowell Dean. The film will see a small time wrestling company accept a high paying gig in a backwoods town, only to discover when they arrive that the community is run by a mysterious cult leader with devious plans for their match. With pro wrestling and horror both having a niche popularity and a wacky world that accompanies it, will pro wrestling and horror be an unbeatable tag team? And obviously, Dylan, I had to put this on here. With slashers and suplexes being its infancy on the channel, and hopefully more content coming your way as long as WWE allows us. But this one, very interesting. I thought this was a lot of fun. We had seen Terrifier 2, and we mentioned it a couple times. As soon as I had seen that Chris Jericho was in the opening credits, I had been sitting in my seat waiting for him to show up, and obviously he doesn't show up till way later in the film, but glorious moment nonetheless. So this one has me very excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very different, something that's not going to be taken super serious, but I think it's going to be a hell of a good time.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I like the first Wolf Cop. I never did get around to seeing another Wolf Cop. Did you? Have you seen those?
I've only seen moments of the original Wolf Cop. I started it. I can't remember where it was streaming, and I got about I don't know, maybe a half hour to 45 minutes into it, and I just had to turn it off. But from what I had seen of it, I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, as big werewolf connoisseurs as we are, we'll definitely need
Yeah,
to cover those. But
unique take.
yeah, I think that this is very interesting. We ourselves, I mean, you obviously are a huge wrestling fan. You've been following this stuff for, ever basically. So it's one of those things where it's like you have a love for this, and of course, like anything, whenever there's a news story about a fucking alligator movie or shark movie, I make you put it on here. So when you threw that story to me just this morning, I was just like, of course, like I'm not gonna say no. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was the poster for the new Ari Aster flick, and I was like, I do want to talk about that, but like, we'll get there with the trailer. Which that's, we'll have plenty of time to stalk Ari Aster, of course. We're gonna get to him at some point. I'm curious, man. I'm interested in this. We have ourselves kind of a wrestling horror film that we've kind of pitched back and forth. We've worked on. So seeing the melding of these two worlds on screen is going to be a good bit of fun, I think. And I do like Chris Jericho. I loved his part in Terrifier 2. I don't know much about the man other than that, but he was funny, and he did seem like he had a lot of charisma there. You speak very highly of him. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm kind of using you to kind of guide me through this, but I am interested in this. This does sound cool. And knowing the director's previous work, I think that this could be a lot of fun. I think that he definitely, to me, understands comedy horror, and I think that he could really flex his muscles here. I guess a little wink there, and show us something unique and cool. And when you have somebody who's starring in the movie who's also executive producing it, you can tell that they have a lot of passion for the material. So I think that this could be a good bit of fun. I'm curious to see where it's going to end up. Feel like it's going to be on the lower budget side, so
Yeah,
whether we get to see
definitely.
it in theaters or not, but it would be cool to see this get picked up by like a Shutter or something like that, to where we can watch it just like we did with Christmas Bloody Christmas,
Yeah.
and be able to check that out. I'm in. I'm very much in. But you, as an avid wrestling fan, like, how do you feel about this? Where are you sitting with it?
I'm very intrigued. I think the world of pro wrestling can complement the horror genre so well. And like how you said, we have a couple different things that I think can really work in that horror genre. It's just I don't think they've really dived too deep in the world of pro wrestling and kind of mixing it with the horror genre. So I think there's a lot left on the table. There's a couple things out there, um, but nothing really prevalent. That can be like the quintessential wrestling themed horror film. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to go. There are a lot of themes that they can play with here. Um, so I really want to see where they're going to go. I think like Chris Jericho is the absolute right choice here. He's not the kind of guy that is out there to be the next, Dwayne Johnson or John Cena. I don't see his aspirations to be this big budget kind of star in action or anything like that. He is very much, if you I've read his two of his autobiographies, and absolutely tremendous stuff. If you ever get around to having the inkling to read them, highly suggest it, just because you kind of get the idea of his personality. And he is very much one of those guys that is extremely smart, really picks up on like subtle comedy and things like that. So I know him playing a role in here it's just going to be, it's going to be those comedy undertones with the horror amped up. So it's like for him to be in Terrifier 2, I think that says it all in terms of what you want to know about Chris Jericho, where that was not something that was an accident. It was something that was clearly intentional because he would be a guy that would keep tabs on Art the Clown and things like that. So he would absolutely know all of this stuff. So it really intrigues me to know that he has a say in, the film itself as well. He's starring in it. I think he said on his Twitter or Instagram that he was supposed to be playing the cult leader himself. So I'm intrigued to see where that's going to go. I know, like, every time he shows up in a lot of small parts. He's been in that film MacGruber. He's been
Mhm.
in some Kevin Smith stuff. So
I do
and
remember him in some of the Kevin Smith stuff. Yeah, like
I know he was in Jane Silent Bob. Oh, what was the newest one they did? I'm
reboot.
forget Reboot, yes. And then he was in Kilroy Was Here. So he's done a lot of different things with Kevin Smith. I know he has a big friendship with him as well. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to go. Anytime you say wrestling and horror, I'm there for it. It's going to be on the low budget side. I'm excited to see where we're going to see this at, though. I would love for this, even if it's got a small release, like how all of these random films that we've been seeing at the theater are just there for a weekend or something like that. I would absolutely go see this just to show my support because I definitely want more stuff like this. And I think it's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. I'm not gonna take it seriously. To have an actual pro wrestler there that knows the insights of pro wrestling and kind of intertwine them with the horror, I think it's a perfect match.
Match. I like what you did there, brother.
There you
No,
go.
I feel you, and I agree. I would like to see stuff like this get a small theatrical release, at least. Like I really have enjoyed that. Even though out of the three movies we've seen, hated uh, Jeepers Creepers. Had issues with the mean one, but um, Terrifier 2 is great. Those are really fun experiences.
Yep.
And I think that that's such a unique space and such a wonderful thing to do in the horror space right now. I love going there with the community and sitting in a near packed house. Even going to these theaters that we don't go to very often because they are so far away from us. I really, really enjoy that kind of communal experience to it. So it's like, it would be nice. I agree with you to kind of get to see that. And I just gotta say it. We did get to interview Stephen Lamort at the beginning of this week. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really fun video, great interview. How would you feel if we got a hold of this director and then got to talk to him and Chris Jericho?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that'd be a dream come true for you, I'd imagine.
That would be phenomenal. Just to be able to pick their brains about what
Mm,
goes into this, because I think it is just going to be something so interesting and off the wall here. When you hear pro wrestling mixed with this whole cult aspect and
mm.
in the horror genre, I think you're really just going to get something fun. And they know what they're doing, what to expect. It's just going to be a great time.
Because I mean, um, with your series of slashers and suplexes, it does kind of show that like the horror community and the wrestling community, not only do they cross paths a lot and they cross pollinate, but they are very similar to each other in the sense
Yeah.
of just like, wrestling fans, they show up for that stuff and they're diehards about it. Horror fans are the same way. You know what I mean? Like they have particular wants, expectations, needs, and everything, and they cross pollinate so well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why it is kind of a beautiful marriage, that series. So seeing them kind of bring this to cinemas, at least, that like I said, I'm intrigued. I may not know as much about the wrestling side of things as you do, and I want to get more on top of it, but it's definitely something I'm interested in, and I will be there with you day one to see it.
And it's like both horror and pro wrestling, they have this kinship when, you see someone wearing a Jason Live shirt, you nod at them, you know they know what's going on. When you see someone wearing, A Chris Jericho T-shirt. You nod at them because you know they know what's going on. So this is very interesting. This melding of both these worlds coming together. It would be such a communal experience as well, because I mean they're diehards. It's absolute support from both sides. So I think it's a perfect marriage. I'm excited to see where this leads. I hope this gets at least a small release, just because I would love to experience this one in the theater.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%.
All right, let's get into our last story here. Adam Driver is back in space, but he won't have any lightsabers or be as whiny, hopefully. The new trailer 65 dropped this week, produced by Sam Raimi and from the writers of A Quiet Place. This could be some very intriguing horror undertones accompanying it. Slated for a March 2023 release, the film sees Driver, who's an astronaut and opioid addict, crash land on a mysterious planet filled with prehistoric creatures. With some horror juggernauts attached to this big budget creature feature, will this be something that is a must see in the theater? Now, Dylan, just like wrestling tickled my fancy, I know these big ass dinosaurs, well, they tickled yours.
Oh yeah, I'm a Jurassic World apologist. Absolutely love that first film. You can't tell me that that's a bad movie. If you do, you're wrong. I even defend the second one. The third one, I can say, even though it isn't great, I still love it. I've been watching it on Peacock every once in a while. I'll throw it on just for shits. I love my big dinosaurs. I love it. And this got my brain running so good about like some content we could put out before this comes out. Because have you seen Carnosaur 2?
I don't even know what that is, to be honest.
Brother, we have to talk about this because it is it's an Aliens knockoff with dinosaurs.
Oh, okay. I'm on
And
board.
it is so much like Aliens. And this has nothing to do with 65, but it would be so much fun for me to get your opinion on that. I actually don't think it's that bad. There is a name attached to it though, just so you have expectations. It is a Roger Corman production. So
There we
you kind
go.
of know what the low budget, what we're getting into. I promise you it's not nearly as bad as it sounds. It's actually quite a bit of fun.
Okay.
But
Is
this
this an
to
older
me,
film? Then?
yes, from like I think either the late 80s, early 90s. I can actually
Okay,
pull
I'm
that
there
list.
for it. I thought we were gonna get into some CGI trash, but hey, if we're
No, it's 1995.
I'm here for it.
Um, yeah, it's fucking great, dude. I it's so much fun. Um, I like it way more than the first one. Anyway, 65. Yeah, this intrigues me a lot. This is from the Quiet Place writers. So obviously, we haven't gotten to really talk Quiet Place on this channel.
No.
You and I are actually pretty big fans of that first film.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
we can kind of save it for when we see this, but we went into that movie with mild expectations. I would say. I
Yeah.
think we were both interested in it. We walked out of that just blown away, like I think most
Absolutely.
people were. I mean, it
Yep.
was such a unique theatrical experience. The quietness, everything. Like we loved it. Quiet Place 2 was okay. I don't hate it.
I'm there
I
with
thought
you.
it was fine.
Felt
It's
Walking Dead to me. I don't know why, but
yeah, I like the opening
opening
a
was.
lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was cool. I agree with you. That Walking Dead feeling, I think, kind of sets in once you get to those communities and stuff. But
Yep.
we'll save that for another day. Like there will be more Quiet
That's
Place
a
stuff, so
different discussion.
we'll have time to talk about them. But I do like the writers. I think that they do show a lot of promise. I think that they definitely know what's going on. We're talking about Scott Beck and Brian Woods. So when I see this trailer, and then we just talked about Evil Dead, I see produced by Sam Raimi, and you're talking big fucking dinosaurs. I'm sold already. Like my ticket is purchased the day the tickets go on sale.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see this movie, man. When I watch that trailer and just I want scary dinosaurs. Because I will say, even though I defend those movies, the Jurassic World films, I miss scary dinos.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, the Lost World, and to some degrees Jurassic Park 3, the dinosaurs were really intimidating. They were wild animals, and they treated them as such. when you get to these newer ones, they do start to kind of treat them like pets. Blue is a good velociraptor. As the first film, they still kind of treat it as like, no, she's still a wild animal. But as the series goes on, she's just never attacking people that aren't the one bad guy here and the one bad guy there, So it's like, they really lose some of their stamina there. Rexy isn't nearly as intimidating. I'm really curious to see this because that sequence with the waterfall and seeing that
Yes.
big dinosaur come
Yeah.
through, it's like, that's the stuff I want, man. I want to feel that fear again, seeing people in peril with dinosaurs.
In this one, I wasn't sure how I felt about it because, I read the little blurb before I ever saw the trailer, and I was like, I didn't really know what to expect if this was like there was going to be a budget behind it or how this was going to look. So when I clicked on that play button, I was a little nervous. I didn't know really the quality I was going to be getting here, and then we see Adam Driver and all this stuff, and I'm like, I am on board with this film. And it's like the tension that they built, like you're talking about the dinosaur, in the waterfall. And they didn't really show too much of anything in this film. I mean, it was a lot of Adam Driver reacting to stuff. And I like that because it wasn't like we're gonna flood you with all these images. They're really keeping that anticipation and that build up there. That's like, I really don't want to see too much. We always talk about this. Don't see too much until we get to the theater. I want to go on that experience as I'm sitting in that seat. And I think 65 is going to really take you on that experience, at least from this first trailer. So, it intrigued me. I think there was a lot of great tension there. Looks a little bit actiony as well. I think that's kind of sometimes where it loses me. Where it can go either way, where it's like we can get into too much action, or it's just the right amount. Where it's like we talk about the Quiet Place, and I think they had the right amount there, where it's like a little bit of action going on with a lot of tension and leaning on that horror genre. So it's like I really hope that that's where this writing goes, where we're really hiding from the dinosaurs and they're treated like that threat, like you're speaking about. I think that's really what you need to make the use out of here. And what they're showing us, I like that melding of, the technology versus these prehistoric creatures. So that kind of marriage there is very intriguing because you don't really see that much. Um, so overall, I think 65 is proving to be some sort of intriguing monster out there. We already have Cocaine Bear coming out, and now we're gonna have 65. So 2023 is shaping up to be a interesting year already.
It is. And you know what? I just realized as we were talking here, just to pull the research, because I was like, well, this is coming out in March.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be pulling double duty that night, my friend, because this is
Both?
March 10th. Yep.
Oh boy,
Scream and 65 coming out at the same time.
that's gonna be a busy day.
Yeah, we're going to have to do some planning for that one.
Yeah.
Because last time we did that, we damn near killed ourselves. So just with how late
That was
we
fun.
were up.
That was a fun time.
But hopefully we can stagger our show times to where it's just we'll see one real early and then we'll be able to get the other one. I will probably take the next day off just to be safe.
Yeah, me as well. I'm probably going to be penciling that one in, but hopefully both these should be accessible in terms of driving, just a drive down the street rather than.
Don't see Scream being that hard to find
Yeah.
for anybody. And I wouldn't see this one because this one has a $91 million budget.
Yeah, so
Did
it's
you
going to
see
be
that?
widely accessible.
Yes. So Sony is putting a lot of money into this. They're going to need to recoup that cash. So yeah, I'm in. I'm excited. I want to see these guys. Plus, the writers are directing it this time too. So it's like they wrote and directed this one. So
Yeah. So that
when you have
singular
that,
vision there, I think is really going to help the we're going to see what they wanted. You know what I mean? It's not going to get
Mhm.
lost in translation. It's going to be there. They clearly have that horror record. So, I think even though there's a huge budget behind it, seems a little bit actiony, I really think they're going to make use of the horror undertones as well.
I agree. And that's really all I can hope for from this is just like, play it up. People want those scary dinosaurs. And if you can give us that and some good tension with some decent characters, I like it. They already got me with Adam Driver walking through the swamp and that kind of sneaky dragon looking dino behind
Great
him.
tension.
Real creepy. Fucking love it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to a lot of things we talked about today, man. This is a good show. Lots of neat stuff.
Lots of positive energy on this episode of the Sunday Scaries.
Absolutely.
We'll have to be extra negative next time.
Yeah,
Nah,
right.
those are saved for Silent Night, Deadly Night, but whatever.
Oh God, yeah. We got to talk about 4 here shortly. So,
Fun times.
but
All
yeah,
right.
I guess that brings us to the end of this episode of the Sunday Scaries, my friend.
I think it does. We very unique, as we always say, very unique time in the horror community. A lot of diverse things going on. As we just had a little bit of tidbits here, some legacy horror, some new stuff coming out, and a video game now making its debut in film. Maybe we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of great stuff going on. I don't know. We'll see. 2023 again shaping up to be a very interesting year. We'll see if it lives up to 2022.
No, yeah, I think that there's definitely some stuff on the table. You know what? I'm more interested to see 2024 because we've not to say that I'm not excited. I'm excited for all this shit, but
Dylan wants to bypass an entire year.
but I'm just saying that because of some of the stories we reported a few weeks ago about like all of these studios really taking a gamble on horror and
Yeah,
trying to put more stuff into it. I want to see what that year looks like because this year was stellar. We're coming up to the end of it, so we will have our end of the year top
review.
10 lists coming out. So we got to look forward to that, obviously. But yeah, I'm real curious to see what the next couple of years are going to look like, man, because
Yeah.
2023 is shaping up pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be as stacked as this year, but it's getting there, man. We still got a few months too. A lot of indie stuff could be popping up right around the corner. So,
I'm very intrigued. We're in the horror business, and business is good, my friend.
absolutely. But alrighty, guys, it's going to wrap us up here for the Sunday Scary. So if you guys are looking to follow us on any of our social media, you can at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at SplattercastPod, where we keep up with all the latest and greatest. As well, we've been pimping out all our stuff all week. But of course, we did have our interview with Stephen Lamort earlier this week. Really cool guy. Awesome conversation. We're really proud of that video. You guys have been responding to it really well. And a lot of people have said a lot of nice things about it. And I love doing those. Luke loves doing them. We hope that we can get more stuff on the channel like that. The more creatives that we can talk to in the horror space, the better. So it's like, hey, if anybody here is making a horror film or works on a horror film and you're watching this and you want to at least talk to us, we'd love to. So feel free to reach out. Our email is always in our description and everything, at least on the channel, so you can always reach out to us there or our social medias. Yeah. Other than that, we do, like we said, got December to Dismember going on, so lots of good content coming your way. Remember, there will be no Splattercast this upcoming Monday. I'm just going to say it again. We are delaying that for the following Monday. And then, of course, we do have a little channel update video coming your way in the near future. So we're going to be talking all kinds of new stuff going into 2023. It's going to be a busy end of the year for us, but hey, I wouldn't have it any other way. So, alrighty. So I guess that about wraps us up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.